Here we are up to chapter 6 already, where we're going to talk about selecting a topic and then looking at your purpose of your speech, as well as developing a central idea or a thesis. So again, the topic, formulating the general purpose and the specific purpose, and then formulating the central idea or the thesis statement. So selecting a topic. Students all the time, I don't know what to talk about. I don't know, I can't think of anything. Well, what are you interested in? Well, I don't really know. Okay, so this is maybe a double-edged sword, that you have the flexibility to choose a topic. For the informative speech, here's the best advice I'm going to give you. Stick with a noun, a person, place, or thing. You're going to hear me say this repeatedly. You want to try to get a topic that's going to be strictly informative. And sometimes there are topics that students are interested in, like maybe you're interested in, maybe you really like weightlifting, and you want to do an informative speech about weightlifting. And I say, okay, but you can't, say that we should try it. And you're like, yeah, but if you say that, I'm going to say, then don't do that topic. Okay. So the right topic is appropriate for you, your audience, and the occasion. And this will all enhance your chances of delivering an overall overall good quality speech. If you choose the wrong topic, that's one that you don't really care about, your audience doesn't really care about, or it's not really appropriate for the speaking situation, and you're going to find yourself unable to maintain your own interest and the audience's interest. So this is why I always say it's best to choose something that you're interested in. I'm going to give you an example here in a little bit. Sometimes you find that you're interested in things that you didn't think of. So one of the best things I tell you to do is, wow, read something, or I don't know, turn on the TV, watch a news station that you didn't watch, turn on the Discovery Channel. I sometimes watch Mike Rowe Does Dirty Jobs, and there was a program on as Paint My Room. I had that on, and it was about a family. They had a maggot. They bred maggots for fishing bait. And I'm like, something I would have never thought about before, but like that could make it an interesting, informative speech topic. You never know where you're going to find something. Okay, so choose a topic that you're familiar with or would like to know more about, something that reflects your personal concerns, your convictions, something that you can get a little bit excited about, or at least pretend to be excited about. Okay, we could use some different techniques. We can try brainstorming. So brainstorming is a process of free association. This is where your goal is generate as many ideas as possible. Oftentimes students choose a subject, they don't choose a topic. A subject is way too broad to accomplish in a speech. Your informative speech is 7 to 10 minutes. Your persuasive speech is 8 to 10 minutes. You do not have enough time in that you might think, oh my gosh, 10 minutes, I got to talk for 10 minutes. It's not as much time as you think it's going to be. You're going to learn as we go on here. There are a lot of pieces to this speech that we need to be able to accomplish. So we want to, maybe you have this broad idea. Maybe you love soccer. Well, soccer, that's a subject. That's not a topic. So we could look at soccer and we could say, well, my favorite team is this team, or hey, I really like this player, or hey, here's some different positions. We can just write down different things about that subject area, and that may help us. So that's what it is to brainstorm. You can piggyback ideas, kind of mix and match ideas you've generated to form interest or combinations. The other thing that I always tell students is that this idea of coming up with a topic has to be partnered with going out and trying to do some research. We're going to deal with that in the coming week. But gathering information, you need to have sources for your speeches, even if you consider yourself to be an expert on your topic. The informative speech needs 4 sources. The persuasive speech needs 5 sources. Those sources don't necessarily all have to come from a book. You might do an interview. You might watch a television program. You could use a TED Talk. We're going to evaluate sources for their credibility, their accuracy. So you need to have sources. You may find through the process of choosing a topic and going out there and looking at your sources that you change your speech a little bit. Be open to that possibility. And when you're first coming up with ideas, don't censor ideas. Just go wild. I had a student once. in a blended class, and she was one of the ideas she was thinking about for her informative speech was the history of restrooms. And sadly, she did not end up doing that because I was very intrigued by that. And she said, you know, she was just traveling on the turnpike. They stopped at a rest stop, and she's got thinking. She's like, well, I wonder how these even came about. Like, did they always have things like this? And yeah, that's an idea of not censoring, just being open to possibilities. Okay, so let's keep this moving along. So you think you have a topic idea. You need to first understand what is the general purpose of your speech. Generally speaking, we have three possibilities. To inform, there we're going to teach. To persuade, we're going to change thoughts and or behaviors of the people listening. Or to entertain, to amuse. And so you need to understand what's my general purpose. In this speech, we're going to focus on informing and persuading. A special occasion speech can fall under entertaining. So if it's not a summer class, we'll get to that. In the summer, we can never quite get to the special occasion speech. Okay, so once you know your general purpose, now you need your specific purpose. The specific purpose of a speech is your statement of the speech's main objective. We're not quite to your central idea yet, okay? It identifies what you want your speech to accomplish or what you hope to do with your speech. Now, for your when you're writing your specific purpose, because this is going to be written at the top of your outline, it's going to be for your own personal use. You don't have to say this during the speech. It's just kind of for you. It's going to be stated as an infinitive phrase, which means it's to inform or to convince. You're going to be focused on a single distinct idea. It needs to be clear, concise, not muddled, not unfocused. It's going to be written at the top of your preparation outline. So let's take a look. Some questions to ask. Does my specific purpose reflect the assignment or speech situation? If it's an informative speech and you say that your specific purpose is to persuade my audience to learn CPR, that's not matching up to the assignment. Are you going to be able to obtain your goal in the speaking time? Are you going to be able to prepare a speech that fulfills your specific purpose in a manner that your listeners are going to be able to understand? Remember, listeners is very important. Is the audience going to judge my purpose to be significant and worthy of their attention? These are all questions you need to ask yourself as you're thinking about your specific purpose. So the specific purpose is a statement of an informative speech would contain a word such as inform, describe, explain. So for example, to inform my audience about the effects of sickle cell anemia, to describe for my audience members how decreases in state funding to college will affect them, to explain, to report. Those are all things you're going to do in an informative speech. Now, in a persuasive speech, not there yet, that's not going to come till towards the end of the semester, but I'm just going to point this out. This is where you're going to persuade, motivate, convince, act, motivate my listeners to buy organic food, persuade my listeners to register as organ donors. Okay. So we've got that general purpose, either to inform, to persuade, or to entertain. We've got the specific purpose. We're getting it now a little bit more narrow to educate my audience about, fill in the blank. Now we need to formulate this thesis statement, or also called a central idea. Those two terms are interchangeable. Generally with a speech, we call it a central idea. A thesis statement is something you'd hear more in English class. But we're going to, this is going to focus it. This is going to tell us exactly what our speech is about. It's a single declarative sentences, and I tell students use a previewing central idea. So for an informative speech, the thesis statement phrased in a relatively objective, neutral manner. We're not taking a position on anything. It's focused on what you want the audience members to understand or learn. I want my audience to understand that nuclear power plants have three major parts: the reactor core, vessels, and control rods. That's it. I'm going to tell them what the parts are of a nuclear power plant. In a persuasive speech, the thesis statement is sometimes called a claim, and you're going to have some kind of you're going to be making a judgment call that this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong, we should do something, we shouldn't do something. It expresses an arguable opinion or point of view. Nuclear power plants should be decommissioned. Wow, that's a whole lot different than our informative thesis statement or central idea. I want my audience to understand. So notice the difference there. it's going to be important that your thesis statement or your central idea matches with your purpose. Okay, so evaluating a thesis statement is, single sentence conveys the essence of the speech. I want you to put a previewing central idea, or so that if I'm going to do a speech about apples, I want my audience to understand more about apples, including types of apples, ways to prepare apples, and the best ways to pick apples. That's right off the top of my head. Notice that absolutely highlights what you're going to be talking about. We can read that and know. It's going to be phrased diplomatically. We're going to avoid figurative language. We're not trying to be vague. We're going to be pretty direct and specific about our central idea. Okay, so 1, we've got the general purpose. This is a broad goal of the speech. 2, we've got the specific purpose, a single phrase that states what the speaker wants to accomplish, and then we've got this nice narrow thesis statement or central idea. So here's a few tips for the informative speech. Think of topics that are nouns, person, place, or thing. We want to keep this simple, we want to keep it focused, and we do not want it to be controversial or anything where we're suggesting people do something. For the persuasive speech, overly controversial topics do not make the best speeches. You only have 8 to 10 minutes. You need to present solid, logical argument with no fallacies and good support. So in the module for resource, the speech assignments, you're going to find some topic ideas that have worked well. So I certainly recommend that you do that. So again, for this particular unit, we looked at formulating a topic, formulating a general and specific purpose, and how to write that thesis statement or central idea.